I'm going to walk through completion of the Excel case number 3 to try to help you in case you run into problems. And it's early in the morning before I'm awake, or it's late at night when after I'm asleep. So hopefully this will help. I've tried to include a lot of screenshots to help you along the way in case you were confused, and I hope that's helpful as well. All right, so I have already downloaded my starting Excel spreadsheet and my Access database. Again, reminder, if you do not have Access installed on your computer, you cannot open that file. So if you double click on it, you're going to get weird messages. I can't guarantee what's going to happen. Don't worry about it. You don't need to open it directly. We're going to use that for import. I am in cell A1 on sheet 1. I'm going to the Data tab, Get External Data from other sources, from Microsoft Query. I'm picking MS Access Database. OK. I know that it is on my desktop. Here it is. OK. I click on the plus button to expand it. My right arrow selects all the fields. Next. Next here. I want to sort it by room number, ascending order, and finish. Now this import data dialog pops up. Since I'm already in cell A1, that's where it says I'm going to start putting the information. Tell it OK. And there you have what you've imported from your Access database. The really good news is we are all the way up to page 9 on these instructions. So now what we need to do, we are in the Design tab. We take off the banded rows. We take off the header row. And you have data that is formatted, or not formatted, with those extra tools that we don't need. And you can name your worksheet. You're going to save your file and do some formatting and adding of columns. I'll be back with you after that's done. So you could put this on pause and finish those steps. All right, with the formatting done, we are ready to calculate the daily charge. That's step number 3 on page 10 of the instructions. And this is where there's a very detailed explanation of what we're trying to do, because it's important you understand this. There's also a quick review about an if statement and how it's formatted. And there's a brief review about the VLOOKUP, which we have previously used in another exercise. I'm going to suggest that sometimes with these complicated things, it's easiest to walk through the logic and you're not really in Excel. I am going to recommend that we use a tool called Notepad, or any text editor you have that doesn't do any fancy formatting of what you're typing. You're going to see the logic of what this complicated nested if statement is on the top of page 11. So we're going to be putting this formula in cell J4. So we're going to be looking at the first row or the first record to do this retrieval of information. To see the daily charge, we need to take into account there are different rate codes and different rooms. So with this if statement, we're going to be able to deal with that. So we'll start with equal if. First of all, we want to know if the rate code is equal to AD. The rate code for this first record is in cell D4. We're checking to see if it's equal to an absolute or a literal of AD. That has to be in quotation marks. As we know with if statements, it's if, check the condition. If it's true, what do you want me to do? If it's true, I want you to perform a VLOOKUP using the room code, which is in cell B4. The VLOOKUP table we know already is in called rate data. If you find a match, then I want you to bring back the value in column 3. As we know, the third column in our rate data VLOOKUP table is the advanced room rate. All right, if it's not a match, do a 0. And as explains here with these nested ifs, it's going to check the first if statement. And if it finds that it doesn't meet the condition, if D4 equal AD is not true, it's going to go to the next if statement. So our next statement is if my rate code in D4 equals ST, then I want to do a VLOOKUP on my room code, rate data, bring back column 4, that's where the standard rate is. And last, if it's not either one of those, if D4 equal SP, then do a VLOOKUP of my room code in my VLOOKUP table, bring me back column 5. I'm not going to worry about completing the rest of these quotation or ending of the parentheses. I'm going to let Excel help me with that. It mentions in there that it offers some help. So I'm going to just copy this and I'm going to put it in my Excel spreadsheet in cell J4. Now you think maybe it's hidden or it's not there, but it's not. If I use the little drop down or expand, it shows me the whole thing. And you'll notice that the closing parentheses are color coded. So this green closing parentheses matches the green beginning parentheses here. If I just type my next closing parentheses, that was my third if. The next one matches the second if, and this last one matches the first if. Now if I hit enter, let's see what we got. Okay, now we got some results. It looks kind of funny though. You may think it's wrong, but it's really not. You'll notice that if I look at these cells, I'm going to highlight all of them down through the bottom of that column. It says it's formatted as a date. That's not what I want. This is a room chart. I want it to be currency with 2 decimal places. I tell it okay. Now for some reason it gave me number instead of currency. I swear I was on currency, but that's okay. We've got another chance to do it. So there we go. Now we have our formatted daily charge rate with a nested if using a VLOOKUP. Now if you think that was complicated, you're right. It's challenging, it's difficult, and it takes a lot of time to master these kinds of things. And you often don't get it right the first time. So if you didn't do it quite right, just rewind this a little bit and hopefully you'll get it right the second time. Now we have a few other little calculations to do. The reservation days in advance is simply the difference between the reservation start date and the reservation date. Again, we've got that funky formatting because it thinks it's doing a date, and we can just tell it it's a number with 0 decimal places. So we have 473 days in advance between the reservation that was made on April 30th, 2015 and the reservation start date of August the 15th, 2016. Next thing I want to do is the days rented. This is, as it explains, I want the ending date of the reservation less the beginning date of the reservation, but I have to add a +1 because if I just subtract August the 15th from August the 17th, it's going to say there's 2 days difference, right? Actually, they have the room for 3 days, the 15th, the 16th, and the 17th. So I have to add that 1 to it. A little formatting, and that's done. And then total charge is simply the number of days rented times the rate. And again, just a little bit of formatting. And then last, step 6 on page maybe 13. I can't tell with these numbers cut off. Sorry about that when I printed it. Number 6, add a row at the bottom to calculate averages for the reservation days in advance, the daily charge, the days rented, and the total charge. And the rest of the fun part comes with our pivot chart and tables. We've done this before. I'm going to walk through the first one again very quickly. I'm going to highlight the entire data range plus column headings, but make sure you don't include the totals. Insert pivot chart and pivot table on a new sheet. We're doing something just a little bit different this time. It tells you that these are, first of all, these are counts. How many reservations were made under each rate code. So in order to do this, we want to designate the room code as a filter in the pivot chart fields. So we take room code and we drag it down to filters. What that does is it adds it here to the top. So if, I'm not sure I can see this, you can see this all, but when you drop that down, it searches and it says, oh, okay, if you want to just see certain rooms, like I picked the boardroom, we can do that for you. I'll take it back to all. Okay, in the rows, we want to see, well, in rows and the values both, we want to see the rate code. So I'm going to drag rate code down to rows. I'm going to drag it also down to values. Now it does a count, and that's okay. What I do want to change, I want to first of all bring my pivot chart over here, and I'm going to change the style. On the design tab, I can change chart type, make it a pie chart instead. I want to also add data labels, inside end, and modify the title. And then that first pivot table and chart is done. You're going to be doing 2 more, one just like this, based on the seating code rather than the rate code. And then the third one you're going to do is looking at the average charge by room. You have screen captures of those in your instructions. You're going to then rename your data sheets or your spreadsheet tabs and organize them according to the directions on the last page, number 16, and submit it through that Blackboard link. That should be it. I hope it wasn't too stressful, and hopefully you learned something new this time. Thank you.